The torso and limb split. What is it? In my opinion, the torso and limb split is the bodybuilding specific upper-lower training program. For guys that prefer to or can only train 4 days per week, many will either opt for a body part specific training plan or go the more common route of an upper-lower training split. But as I've mentioned many times before, upper-lower training programs were not made popular in bodybuilding, but generally more through weightlifting, powerlifting, and any strength or athletic specific sport training. It was not originally intended to be used by somebody looking to step on stage or completely develop their physique. For guys who were stepping on stage, there was one alternative 4-day split that many old school bodybuilders used, and that was in fact the torso and limb split. This called for just 4 days per week in the gym, training the chest, the back, and the shoulders on day 1 or on Monday, the arms and legs on day 2 or Tuesday. You would take a rest day on day 3 or Wednesday, and then you would repeat Monday's workout on Thursday and Tuesday's workout on Friday, taking Saturday and Sunday off to rest. Essentially, this is your upper-lower training split. The only difference is the arms are moved from Monday's workout to Tuesday's workout before legs. Now, doing this may seem completely out of the ordinary, especially in bodybuilding, but I'm going to explain to you exactly why the program is structured this way. I'm also going to break down some of the pros and cons of this training split. But first, let's start with the reasoning behind this training setup. Take a look at most guys who run upper-lower training splits. Although some people do, many guys who run this training split don't necessarily have aspirations of being a competitive bodybuilder. Their focus might be more strength specific or just general fitness related goals. And the end result is, if you look at most of the guys who run the upper-lower training split, you'll see decent chest, back, and even solid leg development. You'll rarely see guys with fully developed and symmetrical physiques. And this is simply due to one fact: training the chest, the back, the shoulders, the biceps and triceps, as well as the other supporting muscle groups of the sides and rear delts, the traps, all in one workout. That's a lot to handle. Of course, it can be done, but the quality of work done at the beginning of the session is always going to be the highest. And the longer you train, as you near the end of the session, the quality of work is going to gradually decline. This is inevitable with any training program, but the end result of doing this on a system like an upper-lower split, the muscles that are worked first in the session, generally the chest and the back, they get the highest priority. And the muscles at the end of the session, they're basically just put through the motions. The quality of work is much lower, the intensity is lower, and overall, those muscle groups might end up lagging. This is something I found over and over again. If you're training with sufficient volume and intensity, most people are going to make it through chest, back, and shoulders in an upper body session. But that's about the point in the session where quality of work significantly starts to decline. Now, simply cutting the session there and calling it a day, then coming in fresh the next day, finishing up the rest of the workouts, which would in fact be biceps and triceps, before your leg training session, your quality of effort is much better, which overall gives those muscles more of a reason to grow. And the one thing about this specifically is arm training in general, it's not very taxing. It's not very demanding on your nervous system or your recovery, especially if you're performing bicep and tricep work with mostly isolation exercises. This doesn't provide nearly the same level of fatigue as heavy compound exercises do. So training them directly before legs doesn't drain you of as much energy as other exercises might. As a result, your leg training is not likely to suffer. That's the entire thought process behind the torso and limbs training split. Now, some of the other benefits include faster workout times, as this split is ideal for supersetting opposing muscle groups. For example, you can superset chest and back during your torso workouts, you can superset the biceps and triceps during your limbs workout, and of course, you can superset quads and hamstrings for the leg portion of the exercise as well. And you can take it a step further by using an advanced technique like trisets on your torso workout, combining the chest, the back, and the shoulders in triset fashion, doing each exercise in consecutive order. The list goes on, but one of the major benefits here is you can cram in a ton of volume in these 4 workouts. This generally makes this split much more practical for running a high volume of training over the upper-lower training split. Upper-lower tends to work better with lower volumes and more strength-specific training. One other major pro to this training split, and was the major reason why most bodybuilders used it back in the 60s and 70s, was plenty of rest. Those crazy high-volume 6-day splits, those were reserved for pre-contest training. But in the off-season, most guys typically train 3 to 5 days per week. For guys who wanted more days off or just couldn't be in the gym 5 days per week, torso and limbs worked very well. And if you're looking to develop your physique and you only have 4 days per week to get it done, you want to focus more on arm training and you need a time-efficient workout to cram in a lot of volume, torso and limbs definitely gets my stamp of approval. But it's not the perfect program for every situation. And while I do think there are more pros than there are cons, there are specific situations where I will say using other plans might make more sense. First, if guys have 5 days per week to train, splitting up those workouts even further will keep the quality of work high and in fact be a bit better in my opinion. You can now isolate and target specific muscle groups with that extra day of training. You can also shorten the length of each session by spreading out your workload over 5 days as opposed to 4. This makes each individual training session that much less work. And let's say you're a guy who really needs to bring up your legs. I might advise training just legs in one session. This will help make sure that the quality of work is very high. But other than that, there's not many negative things I would say about the torso and limb split. It's built some very impressive old school bodybuilding physiques. It stood the test of time. And personally, if a bodybuilder only had 4 days per week to train, I'd much rather see him using something like a torso and limbs training split than a body part split or a bro split. But that's just me. If you're looking to give this split a try and you want guidance on the exact sets, reps, and exercises I recommend, you can grab this program down below. And if you have more than 4 days per week to train and you want to build muscle using proven old school bodybuilding training methods, I always recommend checking out my bread and butter 5-day old school mass game program. And as always, if you want to see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to hit subscribe.